Sorry about that. The previous video cut off because it was so long that I had to go free up some space on the phone. So, uh, let's make this one quick, shall we? So, quick, we are going to retrace a little bit. And so, my mom came home from traveling to a foreign country, maybe it's US, probably US. I think it was Hawaii. And I was like 11 years old, and she brought back some action figures that I never heard of, never seen before. And the first one I opened was Wolverine, which it was cool, but I wasn't very impressed. The second one was this big, beefy, cool-looking character with long hair and some weird bionic implants on his face, and these steel tentacles that would come out from his palm. I was instantly hooked. Like I didn't know what this character was about. I was pretty sure he was a bad guy. He just looked like a bad guy. But I was like, wow, this guy looks so powerful, so cool. And I never heard of anyone who have tentacles that come out from their hand. And that was just such a cool design. It wasn't until 3 years later, in 1994, I I finally watched some of the X-Men cartoon, and I realized this was Omega Red that impressed me so much on first impression. That first Omega Red action figure uh, was with me until 1997 when I sadly have to sell my collection uh, to get me out of some financial difficulties. And ever since then, I've been hoping that a company would make an Omega Red action figure because that was one of my first and favorite mutants from the X-Men series of all time. Now, Toy Biz did make a few, but none of them were really what I call really good. And finally, a couple years ago, Hasbro made this one in the Sauron Build-A-Figure wave, and this is the Omega Red of my dream. Just as cool as the first one, but bigger, and with all the modern articulations and modern construction. This is my Omega Red. It brings me back to that childhood first impression of how cool the guy was. I have two more figures to show you guys, but these do not just represent themselves. These are not just figures that I always really wanted. These two figures represent their entire toy series, their entire line, because these were two lines of action figures that I really wanted. The time is now 9 p.m. But before that, let me quickly mention that uh, Star Wars, the I just recently sold out my entire Star Wars collection, and these next two figures and their toy lines that they represent have some reason to do with that. They have something to do with that. For the last 20 years, 30 years of me collecting action figures, there were three toy lines that I just dreamed would be made into the scale that would fit into my collection. One was Star Wars, the next one was G.I. Joe, and the next one was Gargoyles by Disney. Okay. And uh, almost like a dream come true, all three of them started to appear in modern action figure form and in the modern action figure scales. But unfortunately, I very quickly found out that I wasn't really as into Star Wars as I thought I would be. And, well, G.I. Joe and Gargoyles are coming out, and I need room and space for them and money for them. So, selling off Star Wars was in some ways so we have room for Gargoyles and G.I. Joe as well. Now, speaking of uh, G.I. Joe. let's bring in a GI Joe guy so we can take a look. I waited so many years for GI Joes to be made into 6-inch action figures, and here they are. And this is Sergeant Stalker from the GI Joe team. Such a well-made action figure. I mean, I am not going to go into all the details because we are probably going to do a unique episode just on this guy sometime in the future. But suffice to say, he's super articulated. He's pretty good size, and he his weapon and his gear, his uh, the beret on his head and his guns and all that stuff, even the knife on his leg in the sheath on his leg, all the stuff is removable. He can carry all his gear on his person, and almost every single one of these GI Joe action figures are this well made. Okay, so I mean, it's just simple math, right? Like, why would I spend more money on Star Wars action figures that are smaller, have less equipment, and the quality just kind of sucks? If I could get G.I. Joe action figures like this that are a little bit bigger, come with way more accessories and weapons, and just overall look a lot cooler. Yeah, I mean that's a no-brainer, right? And also, there's another thing to be considered too when it comes to Star Wars versus G.I. Joe. For me personally, G.I. Joe guys just have way more display options. Like I can take any of these G.I. Joe soldiers and put them in to a zombie apocalypse display, or to put in the Alien versus Predator display, or even as backup soldiers uh, on a superhero shelf, helps them fight supervillains. There's a lot more options, but when you have Star Wars, it's such a specific look that they don't really blend in with anything else. It's only good for Star Wars display. So, Star Wars versus G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe 1, hand down. And this is a toy line that I really, really wanted and still really, really want. I know next to nothing about these characters. I did not watch G.I. Joe as a kid. I don't know their backstory. But almost every time there's a new G.I. Joe character that comes up, uh, it's almost for sure that I'm going to get it. And saving the best for last, here at last is Goliath from Gargoyles. Look at this guy. This was made by NECA, and I just got him either early last year or the year before that. Uh, and NECA has revived the Gargoyles toy line, and these guys are impressive. Now, here's a warning: their wings make them huge, and they are hard to display if you don't have the shelf space for them. But if you do, these guys, I mean, look at this is $45. Okay, expensive, yes, but for something this size, this cool, $45, no problem. It's much better than spending 35 or $38 on a tiny Star Wars action figure. I'm just saying. But um, growing up in Taiwan, I did not know what a gargoyle was. That we don't have gargoyles in Chinese culture. So the first time I came across a gargoyle action figure was in 1994, and I had no idea what it was. I just saw it's a muscular monster with giant wings, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Unfortunately, I sold my gargoyles uh, action figure when I sold my collection back in 97, 98. And ever since then, it's always been kind of like a dream of mine to one day see gargoyles made to modern standard. And here he is. And he's not the only one. NECA has been doing amazing work with the gargoyle license. And if I have the money to spare, I am going to get every single bloody gargoyle that they make. These guys are just simply amazing, and they are articulated. They come with great accessories. They're huge. They're chunky. They're just the kind of action figure that I love. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this three-part series, and next week, Toy Thursday, we'll go back to our regularly scheduled program. For now, thank you for checking out today's episode, and I'll be back again tomorrow for some Fitness Friday.